Okay, well, I don't want to delay too much longer because we've got quite a bit to get through. So, what the plan is today is to make sure we're all on the same page about what is due this week and where we're at in lecture this week. And then we're going to jump to the individual project and we're going to talk about what's due on Friday, November 20th. And then we're going to go through the analysis process for the range fire study. What happened, if you guys are just joining and you didn't hear, in the first session at 2 p.m. I only made it through the analysis for the cattle mineral study, and so I'm converting that recording right now, and this one is recording for the range fire analysis, and they'll both be uploaded so you guys will have a good idea of how to do both of those studies by just rewatching the videos and stuff. All right. Before we get going, is there any burning questions about the class? What's coming up, or any of that stuff right now?
Nope, I'm fine with questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and we're going to jump to Blackboard and look at what is going on this week. All right, so on Blackboard, we are clear down here in week 12. Congratulations, making it to week 12. And this week is, we're talking about analysis. And so what we are getting into this week is single factor designs. And so both of the class projects are single factor designs. They're actually single factor, completely randomized designs. And so the videos that you see on this page are of the statistical way that we set up the design, as well as how we analyze it. And so the three major single factor designs that we discussed this week are a completely randomized design, a randomized block design, and a Latin square design. And so the ANOVA video here is a little bit longer, and it actually steps through an entire analysis process for a completely randomized design. And so this is the video that you want to pay extra special attention to complete the ANOVA assignment that is due on Friday. All right, so all that's due this Friday is this ANOVA assignment, and it's due by 5 p.m. on the 13th, Friday the 13th. So I don't know how I planned to have something statistics-based due on Friday the 13th, but it worked out that way. All right, the notes guides here, the first two are the exact same. They're just, one of them is a file with full slides, and there's like 50 of them. And then one of them is a file with 6 slides per page. And so there's a couple there as well. And so just some, so that's what's going on this week. Okay, so we watch through or listen to all the videos and do the ANOVA assignment, and that assignment is due this Friday by 5 p.m. So everybody good with what's due this week? Just give me a thumbs up or chime in. Sweet. Alrighty. So let's switch gears and talk about the individual project. So if we first look at the original assignment, this is that big one that we've been through a couple of times. And so this is where part 1 and part 2 were listed at. What is coming up and is due Friday, November 20th by 5 p.m. is part 3. And part 3 includes the results in the discussion section along with a lit cited. Those are going to be the parts that are going to be subject to grading. I am completely fine if you just add them on to what you are already building from part 2. All right, so what we're looking for in part 3 is the results in discussion section, and it needs to include written results, including a value of significance, It also needs to include a statement of non-significant results, and that's going to become a little bit more clear here in just a second. Also, in part 3, you need to make sure that you refer to a chart, a figure, or a table, and that chart, figure, or table must stand alone. So it has to include the correct title, the X and Y axes need to be labeled, and there needs to be a statement of statistical significance. And again, I'll walk you through that here in just a second. The discussion section is where you're going to compare the results of your study to what has previously been reported. So that's where you can go back to what you used in your lit cited portion and bring that up again in the discussion section. Don't be afraid to go out and find more literature, though, to support your results. Okay, so you can use what's already been used and in a combination with going out and finding probably 2 to 3 new references as well to make your results that much stronger. All right, so we'll look at the rubric in just a second. I just want to reiterate that this assignment is due on Friday, November 20th by 5 p.m. And I need you guys to specifically name your file with your first name or your last name, your first name, part 3, and the date, please. It's hard to keep track of all the different file names. So please just make sure it is in that format. All right, down towards the bottom of this assignment is going to be the rubric for part 3, just like there was one for part 1 and part 2. And this one is really going to look at the results section, the table and figure section, and discussion, as well as the references and the lit cited. And so my best suggestion is after you've gotten this section completely written up, I would go back and grade it against this rubric just to make sure you didn't forget anything. I don't know what's going on, sorry. Okay, so that is what is due in a little over a week and a half on November 20th. Is everybody good with that? Just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Awesome. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so let's get to the rat killing, as John Wayne likes to say. So in the individual research project folder, in the cattle mineral study, there is a data set in there, and in the range fire project, which is what we'll do today, is a raw data set as well. And once you click on it, it's just going to download as an Excel spreadsheet. And hopefully, there it goes. And I'll probably have to switch screens again, so because this is taking forever. Come on, buddy. Okay, there we go. There's our data set. And so let me just orient you to what is going on here. And so in this data set, we've got the burn status in column 1. So there were 6 experimental units or plots that were not burned and 6 plots that did get burned. And so these are correlated to treatment numbers. So just treatment 1 and treatment 2. Don't worry about the subplots. And then after the subplot column is going to be the data that you guys are going to assess. And so the it's kind of, with both projects, it's a little bit of give and take. So with the cattle mineral study, they only have to look at 3 response variables, whereas you guys have 9, but they actually have a little bit more of a challenge with the significance level, because they have 3 treatments and you guys only have 2. And so this is all going to balance out real well. And so what you can do is I always just label this first sheet here master, and then I never edit this. I always just leave it as the master sheet. And every time I go to analyze a different variable, I will copy, I'll click up here in the corner, copy the whole thing and create a new sheet and just paste everything in there. And this helps me to keep stuff straight. And so what I want to look at first is just the first variable here. And so actually, let's look at something more fun. Let's look at Medusa head because it's super invasive. So what I will do is I will create a sheet for every response variable. So let me get rid of these real quick. Delete. Delete. All right, and then I will go down here to the sheet and just call it Medusa head. And so I'll keep the data here as well as copy and paste the analysis of variance results in. And so on the cattle mineral study, I actually encourage them to use an online tool, Vassar Stats. You guys can absolutely use that as well. But it's as easy with this study to actually use the analysis of variance tool in Excel if you have it. And so let me just step you through how to do that. So I always select a cell where there isn't any data and it's a little bit away from my data set because it's going to populate with the ANOVA table here. And then I'll go to the data tab. And in the data tab, I will go down here to the end to data analysis. And so if for some reason you don't have this data analysis tab here, what you can do is go to File, go all the way down here to Options. You'll get this window that'll pop up. And sorry, it's been a while since I have been through this. Oh, you have to go to add-ins. There we go. And you will select the analysis tool pack. And then you can hit OK. And after that, that analysis button should show up here. If for some reason it doesn't, shut Excel down and restart it. And usually it'll pop up. All right, so with the data analysis button, if you select that, what will come up is a window that has a whole bunch of different analysis tools in it. And so because this is a single factor, completely randomized design, we are going to analyze it as an ANOVA single factor. And it's usually the first choice on any of these analysis tool menus. So once that's highlighted, we'll hit OK. And then it'll bring up our working window. And I'm going to try to make this bigger for you guys. It's just not going to do it. Okay, that's all right. All right, so the next step is to probably reorganize the data a little bit. So I'm just going to get out of this real quick and reorganize it so it's a little bit easier to analyze. So I'm just going to go no burn, burn, and I'm going to reorganize it so that all the no burn values are there. All the burn values are there. All right. And then I'll go back into data analysis, select an ANOVA single factor, and then in the input range, I will just click on that button and then go in to these two newly organized columns, highlight them both, and click your button again. So the data is grouped by columns, okay? So burn versus non-burn, or vice versa, sorry. And we do have labels in the first row, so you want to make sure you check that box. Our alpha value is always 0.05. And in this case, I'm going to have the results go to cell I1 here, and just to keep them all on the same page. And after you choose that, you can then hit OK. and an analysis of variance data table will come up. And so there's a few pieces of information here that are going to be really important as we go to build a graph or a table. The first piece of information that's really important is the means. And so that is the average here. So the no burn value, I'm just going to write these down, was 0.08. And the burn value was 0.26. All right. The other thing that I will also total here is I will do a standard deviation. And so keep in mind that standard deviation is the square root of variance. So I will just take the average of these two values. So let me just pull a calculator out. 0.006711 plus 0.009785. And then take the average. And so our standard deviation, or our pooled standard deviation, 0.0082. All right. And so now that we've got that kind of figured out, the next piece of information, I'm just going to highlight these so we know where they're at. And so the next table here is the ANOVA table. And if you guys haven't been through the lectures this week, then this may look foreign to you, but they won't after you get through the lectures. And so this is an analysis of variance table. And the major piece of information that it actually provides us is the F statistic and the p-value. And so any software analysis program is going to generate the true p-value. And so this p-value becomes really, really important because it's actually going to tell us if there's significance or not. All right, so this is where you guys can help me out. What is the cutoff value for significance based on what we've talked about in the class so far? What is their p-value cutoff level?
Is it 0.05?
Yeah, good job. Okay, so if it's 0.05, if we have a value that is bigger than that, is it significant or not?
Not significant?
Not significant. Okay, good. All right, so if we have a value that is smaller than that, it is significant, correct?
Yes.
Yes. You hesitated. Just say it with definition. Awesome. Okay, so what's the deal here with this p-value of 0.006? Is there significance or not?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so that significant value is telling us that Medusa head was in greater percentage in the burned area compared to the non-burned area. Okay, and that makes sense just looking at the averages, right? But now, because we have that p-value, we can say it with statistical significance. And so once we have that kind of figured out, the next step is to go in and build a table or a figure or a graph, sorry. And so if I were you guys, I would keep it to just either doing all graphs or all tables. I wouldn't try to combine them. Unless you really want to, then I'll absolutely help you with that process. But you only just make sure that we only are reporting data once. Okay, so that if you're reporting it in a graph or you're reporting it in a table, but not both. So because a lot of people are really intimidated by Excel, and I get it. It takes me a little bit to get it figured out as well. I'm going to walk you guys through how to build a table, and all the things that it needs to have so it can quote unquote stand alone. And then we'll do the same thing for a table, okay? Or graph in a table. All right, so I'm going to try to keep everything on this same page here. And so let me just back out a little bit. All right, so I'm just going to put the graph over here. And so I'm going to go to, should I reorganize this data? I'm going to reorganize the data. So let's do burn status. So no burn. Okay, and then so our mean here is going to be that. All right. Okay, and then our standard deviation is going to be 0.0082. No, that's just the variance. Ugh. Sorry, I'm now second guessing myself. I'm pretty sure I just averaged the variance and I didn't take it clear to a standard deviation. So let me try something. Yep. So this is 0.09. All right, so now we're ready for a chart. So I'm going to go to Insert, and then just going to choose a bar graph. Bar graphs are really, really easy. And then once you choose a bar graph in this Design tab here, you can then go ahead and select the data. And so the chart input range, I'm just going to select that right there. Then I just got to make sure that our values are right. So no burn is not very big and burn is pretty big. Okay. All right. So we got our data into the chart. And the next thing we need to do is make sure that we label our X and Y axes. So if we click that plus button, we can then go to axis titles. Maybe. There we go. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. And then here, you can just type them in or get them in however you need to. And then this is species composition. And it's a percentage. All right, so now that we've got, I'm going to just get rid of this guy because we don't need it. There we go. All right, so now that we've got our axes labeled, the next thing that we need to do is add standard deviation bars. So to do that, we can go to the plus button here and down to error bars. And once we click on that outside arrow, we can select standard deviation. And once we do that, it's going to apply these bars to our graph. And they're seldom correct. The default in the Microsoft programs are very seldom correct. And so I will always go back and select them, then right click, go to Format Error Bars, and over here on the right-hand side at the very bottom is a custom value. And so I'll select the custom value, then specify value, and you'll have this window pop up. And for the positive error value, I will select what we calculated for standard deviation, so 0.09, and then I will select it again for the negative value. Then hit OK. And that gives you accurate standard deviation bars. All right, so the next step is then I'm just going to get rid of these because I hate these grid lines here. The next step is we need to make sure that we have some sort of statement of significance. So because we only have 2 treatment groups here, it would be, we could do a couple of things. We could actually go in and insert a text box and just put in this text box P. Let me do Control italic, so P equals 0.006, which is this guy over here. And that's probably the easiest. So I would, the other thing you could do is you could put superscripts with lowercase a above no burn and lowercase b above burn. But again, it's saying the same thing as you having a p-value in this area. Oops. Okay, the next step then is to make sure that we have a complete figure title. And so this always takes me a few minutes to kind of get through because I talk to myself a lot. But this title here could be figure 1. And it could be, let's see, what is it? It is the mean. Then if we go to insert, symbol, plus minus. Okay, so figure 1 is the mean plus or minus the standard deviation of Medusa head composition in a percentage of annual grass rangeland. Let's go back. Burns or non-burned annual grass rangeland in northern California. And then we have 6 values per treatment group. So we'll do lowercase n equals 6 in parentheses. Go back and make it all the same size. There we go. All right, so that gives us a figure title. We've got our x-axis labeled, we've got our y-axis labeled, and we've got our p-value, which is our statement of significance. So I think we've got everything we need in our table to make it quote unquote standalone. So you guys have any questions about the graph part of this? Did it help going through it like this?
Yes, that helps a lot. We covered some of it in 231, but that was 2 years ago or so.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
All right. So the other thing that you could do, and I'll be honest, it actually fits you guys a little bit better, unless you want to make a bunch of graphs like this just to get practice, which I'm fully in favor of, is you may also want to make one table and have all the information in a table. So with the table, I'm just going to do it down here at the bottom. The table title needs to go above the table. So we'll just make this table 1 and we'll call it basically the same thing as we did the figure. Okay. And then below it, let's do species in the first column, and then we'll do non-burned no burn and burned and standard deviation. All right, so these two we can merge together and do burn status. All right, and then so our first one would be Medusa head. And all of our species values are going to be in percent oh, that's not right. Species. We'll just leave it as species. Sorry. I'm talking through in my head. So Medusa head, comma, percentage is how it's measured. And so for our no burned area, it was 0.084. And our burned area was 0.264. And our standard deviation was 0.09. And so you could have all 7 other species below this. So like filary, soft chest. And these are all going to be in percentages. So just don't forget the values here. And then blah, 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 these other ones down here. And so the way that we format the table is that there are no vertical lines. There's only horizontal lines. So we want to put a line underneath our headings. And then if clover is our last one, we'll put a line under it as well to signify the beginning and the ending of the data in the table. All right, so I'm hoping that helps a little bit. And so you guys can either do graphs or you can do tables. It doesn't matter. And or you can do a combination of all of them or a combination of them. You just need to remember not to report the data or not to double report the data. And so just to reiterate again, so I like keeping all of this information on one sheet. So when I go to the Medusa head sheet down here, everything's here. The raw data, the way I reorganized it, the ANOVA analysis, and then the graph or the table. And so just keep that in mind as you're trying to manage data as well. But you're going to go through and you're going to do an analysis of variance or an ANOVA analysis for each one of these. Okay. I think that I am forgetting to tell you stuff, but I don't know what that is right now. So what questions do you guys have? Silence. Does that mean you've got it or you're overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think I got it. Sorry, I'll probably end up looking at the video once again, but at the moment I don't have any.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and so also remember I sent out in Friday's email, I'll have office hours this week and next week that you guys can jump into. I didn't want to do specific writing workshops because all my other classes need additional help right now too. So I just made them general office hours. So feel free to jump in on those if you want. All right, so next week, guys, with the Monday session is going to be kind of part work and part outlining the discussion portion. So we'll talk through the discussion and stuff next week. So if you guys could, get some time this week and get your results done, that would put you way ahead of where you need to be for next week. Awesome. So that's kind of what I have for this week. So let me know if you guys have questions. I can hang out a little bit longer. But what I will probably do is shut everything down so the recording can convert, and then I'll start it up again at 4 for the last session. But if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask them now. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you guys. Have a good day and a good week. Congratulations on making it to week 12.